Yo, what's up, guys? It's Dom, and you're tuning in to Talks with Dom, where we touch on the serious topics that dives into the creative within. Over time, the goal is to help each and every one of you partaking in this transformation to better understand who and where you are on your journey. So let's chop it up, guys. Right. So we're on to point 18. These last four, I guess, because the last one was 17, I believe. Yes, 17. This is 18, 19, and 20. So these last four is kind of going to be almost like cousin videos in a sense, right? It's going to be one that's based off the last one, right? And so this one right here is basically talking about, because for the last one, it was hopelessness, right? Understanding how we lose that hope, understanding how like that drive goes, that motivation goes, right? We have patterns that we start to gain trust in and believe in, right? And we start to put that into how we see the future, how we go into when we try to do things in the future, right? And so now point 18 is about the moment it stops making sense, right? The moment that kind of thinking, the way that you see that stops making sense for what it is for right now, right? So the moment it stops making sense, after spending so much time attending to certain beliefs, outcomes, identities, fears, and expectations, there can come a point where the creator realizes this explanation doesn't fully explain me anymore, right? Pay attention to that, because when we start to truly understand that, of course, there's going to be certain things about the way that we look at ourselves, the way that we see our limiting like beliefs and stuff like that, to where it fit the way that we lived before, right? But once we actually start to align to who we truly are and the creative that we're supposed to be, you start to see how that belief, how those fears, how those expectations and identities are only so big, right? Like you start to expand past that, you start to grow past that, and to start to see how those things are actually hurting you more than they were good for you, right? Because attachment often gives us an explanation for why we think, feel, or behave a certain way. But when the creative begins questioning that, contradictions start appearing, right? Contradict yourself of how you believe that this is supposed to happen like that. And just because it happened like that before, that it's going to always be like that. But then once you come to that point to where you're able to change that and you're able to show how it's not going to be like that, now it's just more like, oh, well, yeah, like that wasn't, like that's not the thing for me no more. That's not the shirt that I wear anymore, right? That's not the identity that aligns with me anymore, right? Something that once felt like the reason may only have been part of the reason, right? And now the creative has choices. Force everything back into the explanation they already have, or become curious about what the explanation is missing, right? So once you start to say, like, let's just say, speaking into the camera, right? Or speaking in front of people, or being a person that's afraid of how people will criticize them for making videos like this, wanting to talk about something that's important to you, that's dope to you, right? Once you start to feel like, hey, like this is what it is, this is the way that I see that, right? And then you go back on it to be like, well, hold on, like that truly doesn't have anything to do with like, that doesn't have anything to do with that thing being dope, right? That has more to do with me feeling like that people are just going to judge me. People are not going to see it the way that I see it, right? But now it's just more like it's missing, like, well, everybody's not supposed to see exactly how you see it, right? The people that's going to see it the way that you see it is going to align with the way that you see it. They may actually add a perspective to the way that you see it, right? There's so many things that can happen, so many possibilities that can come into play, but it just all depends on on how you decide to see that, how you decide to add that missing piece to the way that some of these things come about within our minds and within ourselves, right? That's stopping us from going forward. The familiar explanation, the creative develops a way of understanding why they aren't moving, creating, risking, trusting, or pursuing. It gives the experience a name, and names can create a sense of certainty, right? So understanding like, hey, I'm procrastinating or something like that just because I'm sitting back and I just want to chill for a second. Like I just want to let my thoughts process, right? So I'm just procrastinating a little bit. That's something that you can kind of lean on when you feel like that you're not doing enough or you should be moving at a certain pace. When in all reality, it's just more of kind of like sometimes that's how the system works, right? Your ideas are going to flow as you're going. Sometimes you don't need to move so fast. Sometimes you don't need to be Sometimes it don't have to be like that. Things are going to change. Things are going to go up. Things are going to come down. Things are going to look, things are going to come out to be bright. You know what I mean? Other things could come out to be like a tad bit dark, right? But then you start to see how all of this is just creativity. So there's no real wrong movement when it comes to creativity, but it's a way to pitch that creativity. It's a way to show that thing in the most effective way through expression and not just out of words, out of the way that you show that, right? Out of the way that you put it out, however you feel like that you should be able to do that, right? The contradiction, right? Eventually, something doesn't fit, right? If that's really the reason, then why do I still feel this, right? The experience begins challenging explanation, right? We're going into the uncertainty. Now the creative can't rely on the old explanation as completely as they used to. And that's uncomfortable, but important, right? When you start to not attach to how you were so good at attaching to these certain names and certain titles to certain things, you're like, oh snap, like I actually have to have a reason why I actually do that, why that's actually a thing in my life, or why that's actually why I believe that, right? I have to add that missing thing. Not knowing becomes more honest than pretending to know, right? It creates that space of questioning, right? Having to question that, having to bring an answer to that, and not always just an answer, but some sort of perspective, right? The opening. Once the old explanation loses its authority, something new becomes possible. The creative can investigate instead of assume. They aren't trying to confirm what they already believe anymore. They're making room to find out, right? Just as I said, you're opening up that chest. You're opening up that mystery box of a bunch of possibilities, right? Discovery begins when the creative becomes willing to question an explanation that once felt complete. The old explanation doesn't have to be wrong. It just has to be incomplete enough to make the creative look deeper, right? So understand of how I just said that sometimes you can contradict yourself, right? Sometimes you're going to contradict yourself when you know that you're trying to expand and grow as a creative. But now when you have to bring more questions to the way that you look at these things, right? You start to understand that, oh, these things aren't as complete as I thought. They're actually incomplete enough for me to actually dig a tad bit deeper to understand it that much more, right? And so being able to go in it like that, right? This was a tad bit shorter, but just being able to see it in a space of understanding why certain things are going to not make sense after a while of digging, of a while of really asking questions, right? And truly being on the search, truly allowing yourself to go past the knowing, right? But yeah, to the next one though, guys, for sure.